effectively dead in the water?
Not at all. In fact, today I announced that in Budget 2019 we will be meeting the budget responsibility rules just as we did in Budget 2018. What I announced also today is that the Public Finance Act obliges us to give long-term fiscal projections. We're now outside the period of our commitment of the budget responsibility rules of 5 years, so we're giving a signal that we would be looking to move to a range. But from the point of view of the government, our budget responsibility rules stand, the 20% debt target stands.
What do you want to spend that extra money on?
Well, that's far into the future. We have set a budget for this year where you'll see where the money is going. But what we're talking about there is from the 2023 year onwards. That'll be for the government that's in place at that time to decide. At the moment, our plan and our projections have us carrying on through with a debt level around 20%.
Why do you need the wiggle room?
Because we've been given advice that it is better to have a range than a specific point. That allows you more flexibility to respond to particular economic conditions. I'm very satisfied with our 20% debt target and believe that that allows the balance that we want in the economy. This is simply an ability for a future government to have that range to be able to adjust to economic circumstances.
So why if you're going to set a range then and be sticking to the 20%, why not set the upper end at 20%, go to 10 to 20?
Well, no, because the advice that we've had is that you do need from time to time to be able to respond to particular economic conditions that may require you to go there. I'm comfortable with the 20% because I believe that we do need our borrowing at that level to be able to make the investments we need to in infrastructure and in schools and in hospitals. I'm satisfied, but we want to make sure there is flexibility built in.
The timing of this reset, why now? Why not save it for budget day? Is it because you want to get rid of the negative news before then?
No, far from it. I mean, this was merely the fact that we were making a speech where I was talking about the budget responsibility rules. I'm really pleased that once again we have been able to meet them in this budget, but equally I didn't want to be accused of misleading people about future intentions.
National would say this is simply an excuse by Labor to borrow more money.
Well, no, because we're not doing that. I mean, we are sticking to the budget responsibility rules as they are, and you will see when the long-term fiscal projections come out in the budget that we're staying nearer around 20% right out until I think 2032 in the projections. So this is merely about creating the environment on advice that you don't have to have a specific point, that you can adjust to economic conditions.
But there is a bit of backing to their argument. You've given yourself license to spend more.
Well, I'm pleased that Amy Adams thinks I'll definitely be the Finance Minister in 2022, but we haven't made that decision. For now, the policy stands for us at 20%, and that's what we're making our projections on.
Minister, how concerned are you about slowing GDP growth?
Oh, look, I think as I said in the speech this morning, there's no doubt that the international economic environment is one where things are slowing down, and that affects New Zealand. But as I also said this morning, projections from the IMF and OECD and others is that New Zealand will continue to outperform other economies. We're not immune to what happens in the world, but our economic growth rates will remain solid.
It's fair to say the forecasts in BFU are likely to show GDP, the projections slowing over time. Would that be a fair guess?
I'm not going to say what they say today, but as I said, the IMF and the OECD have certainly been projecting that everybody's growth rates are slowing. New Zealand continues to outperform the majority of our trading partners.
Sorry, Minister, the IMF
and that $600 million taxation shortfall.
Well, I'm not going to rely on those numbers. We've made our budget on the basis of the projections that we have and the forecasts that are there, and you'll see them on the 30th of May, and I'm very confident our budget gets the balance right between the spending that we need to do and maintaining our fiscal discipline.
What sort of economic conditions do you want that 25% for? Is it for more spending on infrastructure? What's it for? Or is it for an emergency?
I don't want that 25%. I'm satisfied with where we are at 20%.
Why is it?
Because the advice we have is that we need a range to be able to adjust to. For example, if there is an economic... Well, that's the advice that we've got from the Treasury, and we made a policy when we were in opposition to have a fixed target of 20%. I'm satisfied that that target is still the one that we should have. So any future decisions are still to be made about whether a government would want to go towards 25%. One example, which I gave in the speech today, would be if there was a recession and that you felt that you needed to have a high level of debt.
Did Treasury put any caveats on that advice? Did it say 15 to 25 carte blanche, or did it say...
I'm sure the advice will be released to you very soon, and you'll see that, as most people believe, if you are going to borrow, it should be heading towards productivity, to infrastructure and so on, and that's a view that the Treasury have had for some time.
Minister, I just want to ask you about the OECD and the IMF. They've been talking a bit about fiscal policy needing to play a greater role in stimulating economies around the world. perhaps more so than monetary policy, because monetary policy has done a lot since the GFC. Sort of on high level terms, what are your thoughts on that rhetoric?
Well, we've always said that it's important that we do invest in the economy, and we've been investing significantly more than the previous government had planned in things like transport and hospitals, schools, housing, so that remains important. It's a balance. We have to get that balance right between our fiscal discipline, our long-term fiscal sustainability and the spending, but we believe we have got that balance right. Sorry, Jenna, last one.
Amy Adams says that you wouldn't have had to shift your debt targets had you not spent on fees-free, the Provincial Growth Fund and slushy machines.
We're not shifting our debt targets. We are not shifting our debt targets. The 20% target remains. This is about from 2023 onwards. I'm pleased that Ms Adams has confidence I'll still be the Finance Minister then. The projections in the budget will show you that at that time we're still expecting it to be around 20%. This is simply about giving the facility to be able to have a debt range depending on the circumstances.
Did you have to borrow any money for slushy machines?
I don't think so.
Have you talked to credit rating agencies?
Not today, no.